On a frigid autumn weekend, our group of friends ventured into the dense pinewood forest for a camping trip, where the spirit of adventure overshadowed the first hints of unease. 3 days into our retreat, Ryan, our outgoing friend, set off to gather firewood and mysteriously disappeared. After frantic searches and sleepless nights filled with dread, Ryan reappeared, but he was not the same. This tale recounts the harrowing moments leading up to that fateful return, the chilling transformation we witnessed, and the bone-chilling reality that followed as we grappled with the horror of watching a friend become something unrecognizable. The air was crisp as we made our way to the pinewood forest, excitement palpable among our group of 5. As we set up camp, the towering trees loomed overhead, casting ominous shadows that, in hindsight, foreshadowed the dark unfolding of events. "I'll go grab some firewood," Ryan exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. With an axe slung over his shoulder, he sauntered into the thick woods, confident and carefree. "Be careful, man," Jordan called out, chuckling. "Don't get lost in there." Laughter echoed through the trees, our camaraderie blinding us to the encroaching night. Minutes morphed into hours, and as darkness cloaked the forest, our initial mirth faded into discomfort. "Maybe we should go look for him," I suggested, unease twisting in my gut. "Let's give him another half hour. He's just being Ryan," Laura chimed, though her voice quivered slightly. When the clock struck 10, we finally decided to search, torches flickering as we called his name into the abyss. "Ryan!" echoed through gnarled branches, a futile lament that was met with the haunting winds. Tension mounted as we stumbled through the thickets. Each rustle sent a wave of dread coursing through our veins. Just after dawn broke, we reported his absence. Frantically, we combed the woods, anxiety coiling tighter around our hearts as silence blanketed the area. Panic had begun to settle. 3 days without a trace was tormenting. With each passing hour, our hope diminished, replaced by a creeping sense of loss. On the morning of the 3rd day, amidst despair, we prepared to abandon our search. My heart sank with the realization that Ryan was gone forever. That's when we heard it, a rustling in the underbrush followed by a chilling, familiar voice. "Guys, I'm back!" "Ryan!" I shouted, running towards the sound. As he emerged, relief crashed over me, only to be swallowed by confusion. Ryan stood before us, but something was terribly wrong. His clothes were torn, dirt smeared across his pallid skin, and his eyes, they glinted with an unnatural fervor. "Where were you?" Laura whispered, her voice trembling. "We've been looking everywhere." I found something." His smile was unsettling, a rictus that didn't quite reach his eyes. We exchanged concerned glances, the unspoken fear hanging heavy in the air. What had happened to him? "Something in the woods," Ryan continued, his voice nearly a growl. The sound sent chills down my spine. "Something alive." "Alive? Ryan, were you hurt?" Jordan stammered, unable to hide his disbelief. No, I'm fine now. Better, in fact." The way his head tilted unnaturally made me step back instinctively. The forest showed me. "What do you mean, showed you?" I dared to ask, fear flooding my system. "The truth, man. The woods hold power, don't you see?" he hissed, laughter bubbling from his throat like something dark. Ryan's transformation was gradual, but undeniable. Over the next few days, he slipped deeper into madness. His laughter, once genuine, turned manic, and the way he spoke began to confuse us all. "You'll understand soon," he would often say. We watched helplessly as our friend became possessed by the very forest that swallowed him. "I think we should leave," I suggested as we huddled under the flickering embers of a dying fire. "This isn't Ryan anymore. He's still our friend. We can help him. Laura insisted, though her eyes reflected her growing fear. "Help him? He's different," Jordan whispered, glancing nervously at Ryan, who stood on the edge of the clearing, whispering to the trees. One night, drawn by a strange compulsion, Ryan began to wander again. "I need to go back," he muttered, his figure shrouded in shadows. "The woods are calling." "Ryan, don't go," I cried, but he merely glanced over his shoulder with an expression that was hauntingly blank. "Join me, or stay lost." His voice sliced through the cold night air, laced with that twisting, unnatural cadence. Ultimately, we could not find it in ourselves to abandon him completely. With heavy hearts, we ventured deeper into the woods, following the strange sounds that seemed to pulsate around us. The trees loomed taller, their gnarled branches like skeletal fingers reaching toward us. "Ryan, where are you?" Laura called, but our voices were drowned by an ominous silence. Suddenly, Ryan reappeared, now flanked by shadows that pulsed and flickered as if alive. "They are waiting," he growled, motioning to the darkened figures. In frantic desperation, we attempted to run, but the forest gripped us, roots snaring our feet. "Fight it, Ryan," I shouted, but he stood unyielding, no longer the friend we knew. You have to come back." "I am home," Ryan hissed, his eyes glowing with a malevolence that sent terror cascading through me. In a burst of adrenaline, I broke free from the binds of the forest and urged Laura and Jordan to follow. We fled, leaving the echoes of Ryan's anguished laughter and hollow words behind us. We ran until the trees faded and sunlight broke through, but we left behind a part of us, swallowed by the omnipotent woods. To this day, I cannot shake the feeling that the forest still watches. We returned to town, forever marked by that encounter, knowing that a piece of Ryan resides within the woods. Sometimes I hear whispers in the night and see shadows that seem to move on their own. Have you ever felt someone watching you when you're alone? I frequently do, especially in the woods. Every rustle brings back memories of Ryan. Laughter that was once a source of joy now echoes with despair. I still feel compelled to return, to face what was lost. But perhaps it is better to leave the shadows buried beneath the roots of the pinewood forest, where something once human now roams free, whispering dark secrets to those daring enough to listen. So, remember, if you go searching for firewood in those woods, you might just find something that should remain buried. Last summer, my friends and I decided to embark on a camping trip deep in the heart of a remote forest, far removed from the distractions of our daily lives. Little did we know, the adventure would soon spiral into a chilling experience none of us would ever forget. As we settled around the flickering campfire, sharing ghost stories and laughter, we felt an undeniable sense of peace. However, the following morning, we discovered eerie footprints surrounding our campfire, altering the course of our trip and challenging our perception of safety in the wilderness. The shadows of our fears lengthened as we struggled to make sense of the haunting mystery. Would we make it out of the forest unscathed, or were we mere pawns in a game far beyond our understanding? "Are you sure this is the right spot?" I asked, looking skeptically at my friends, Matt and Lisa, as we unpacked our gear. We had driven for hours into the wild, lured by tales of breathtaking views and untouched nature. "Trust me, it's perfect," Matt replied, his eyes gleaming with excitement. He raised his arms in a mock gesture of a tour guide. "No one ever comes here, just us and nature." I sighed and glanced around the dense trees, feeling a chill creep down my spine. That's exactly why I'm worried. "You're such a chicken, Rachel," Lisa teased, swatting my shoulder playfully. "Come on, think about it. A weekend away from our phones, with s'mores and ghost stories around the fire? What could go wrong?" Despite my anxiety, I couldn't resist the infectious enthusiasm in their voices. We set up our tents and gathered wood for the fire as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple. As the first stars twinkled into view, we sat around the campfire, roasting marshmallows and laughing. The crackling of the fire seemed to harmonize with the distant sounds of the forest. Between bites of gooey chocolate and laughter, I found myself slowly relaxing, the haunting thoughts of the forest receding. "Okay, let's do it. Tell me your best ghost story," Lisa challenged, tossing a log into the fire, sending embers spiraling upwards. "All right," Matt began, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Have you heard about the lost hiker? They say his spirit roams these woods, still seeking a way home." Hours passed, and we finally decided to call it a night. The fire flickered low, a ghost of the warmth it had provided. "Let's get some sleep," I suggested, glancing at the now dark canopy overhead. "Just a few more minutes," Matt protested, his eyes heavy with fatigue. "I want to finish this story." The rustling trees whispered outside our tents as sleep began to overtake me, but a nagging sensation lingered, as if the forest was holding its breath. Sometime later, I woke abruptly to a chilling sound. Footsteps. My heart raced. Had it been a dream? "Guys?" I called softly, trying to remain calm. "Did you hear that?" "What?" Lisa groaned from her tent. "Footsteps. I swear I just heard." "Probably just an animal, Rachel," Matt mumbled through sleep. But I wasn't convinced. The feeling of being watched lingered, and sleep eluded me as I lay awake, straining to listen. When morning broke, I finally drifted off, only to be jolted awake again by Matt's panicked voice. "Guys, you have to see this." In the light of day, we all stepped out of our tents, groggy but curious. The campfire was surrounded by an ominous circle of footprints, bare and distinctly human, but far too large. They seemed to appear out of nowhere, forming a perfect loop around our campfire. "Who in the world would have come here?" Lisa exclaimed, her voice trembling. "Do you think it's someone playing a prank?" Matt suggested uneasily. "I don't think it's a joke," I replied, my stomach sinking. "These footprints, they look ancient." We huddled together, scanning the surrounding trees, feeling the weight of the forest pressing in on us. The thrill of adventure had now morphed into a chilling realization that we were not alone. "Should we just pack up and leave?" Lisa stuttered, her voice faltering. Matt, who had once been confident, was now visibly shaken. "I mean, it might just be some lost hiker. We really shouldn't overreact." His words seemed hollow, betraying his own fears. "Or it could be dangerous. Those footprints are huge," I interjected, anxiety bubbling to the surface. We chose to investigate, despite nagging fears urging us to escape. As we ventured away from our encampment, following the prints deeper into the woods, a sense of unease began to settle over us. The thick woods began to swallow the sun, casting shadows that magnified every sound. "Guys, we should go back," Lisa said, turning pale. Her voice trembled as she continued, "This feels wrong." "Just a little further," Matt insisted, his bravado wavering. But as we walked onward, our surroundings transformed. The trees grew taller, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, and the air became thick and suffocating. Suddenly, we heard rustling. "What was that?" Lisa yelped, backed up against a tree. "It's just the wind." I attempted to reassure her, though my voice quivered. But then, we heard it clearly. a faint whispering seeming to echo all around us. It was as if the forest itself was alive, beckoning us. Panicked, we turned back toward the camp, our footsteps quickening. The whispers seemed to grow louder, weaving through the trees. "Run!" Matt shouted as he stumbled over a root, and we all burst into a sprint, desperation fanning our fear. When we finally reached our camp, my heart raced as I glanced back, half expecting to see something lurking in the trees, but the path behind us was empty. "Let's pack up now," I hurriedly said, my voice urgent and frantic. We hastily disassembled our tents and threw everything into our backpacks. As we stumbled over uneven terrain to reach the car, one thought kept racing through my mind. How could something so serene had turned so sinister? As I loaded the last of my belongings into the trunk, I noticed the footprints again. They were still there, surrounding the place where we had spent the night, a haunting reminder of our terrible experience. "Did they follow us?" I muttered, fear gripping me. "Let's just go, Rachel," Lisa urged as she climbed into the car. With a heavy heart and dread behind us, we drove away, leaving the forest to its mysteries, wondering whether we'd crossed a line we'd never intended to. The drive home was eerily quiet, the adrenaline fading into silence. Words hung unspoken in the air, and despite the bright sun overhead, every shadow felt oppressive. "Do you think we were really in danger?" Matt finally broke the silence, his eyes flickering to the rearview mirror as though he expected to see a figure following us. "I don't know," I admitted, shuddering at the recollection of the whispers and footprints. "But something was out there, and I don't think it wanted us there." Lisa finally spoke, her voice trembling. "I just want to forget about it. I keep seeing those footprints in my mind." "Me too," I confessed as we crossed into familiar territory, a relief washing over me. But I knew this wouldn't be the end. Sleep would evade me, my dreams haunted by the echo of the forest's eerie whispers. That trip remains etched in my memory, a chilling reminder of our vulnerability in the face of the unknown. Adventure calls us into the wild, but sometimes it's the things we cannot see that hold the most terror. As I lie in bed that night, I could hear the wind, and this time, it felt like a warning, whispering secrets of the forest we would never truly understand.